What is something that blew your mind once you realized it? I got really high and started thinking about our modern life. Clean portable water on tap. Living in air-conditioned houses with multiple rooms. Able to drive around in a machine capable of carrying thousands of pounds. Able to go experience food from around the world with little difficulty. Edit it in, able to flush away your waste with water, not have it just build up and purify somewhere, but be treated, cleaned and recycled. Able to talk to people across the world in real time. Even if it is expensive, the medical capacity we have in the first world is astounding. When you realize that we are all living like mini kings with our luxury, you start to appreciate it more. It blew my mind just how much we take for granted. Hot showers is definitely one people really do not appreciate. Mine isn't super big, I guess, but that the Ferdinand and Isabella who funded Columbus were the parents of Catherine of Aragon, the first wife of Henry VIII, who was actually alive when that happened, and that Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, the future Henry VIII, Columbus, and Rodrigo Borgia were all alive at the same time. I mean, overlapping, they didn't have the same lifespan obviously. Or that Picasso died in like the 60s or whatever? I thought he was super old when he was famous, and that he died in like 1935 or something, not that he was old enough to have seen the Flintstones. Or that it would have been entirely possible to have traveled west on a wagon train only to grow up and watch the TV show Wagon Train in the 50s and 60s. Wagon trains just feel like some ancient thing, but you could have been on one as a child in the 1870s and still been alive to watch all these shows about the Wild West in the 1950s and 60s. Took a pic of Andromeda Galaxy. Nice, looks a thin smear in the photo. But then thinking about the trailing edge of the galaxy about 100,000 li further away than the leading edge that I see. The light of the back edge traveled for 100,000 years, and in line with the light just being emitted from the front edge, and all that light then traveling for 2.5 million years to land on my camera sensor. The pic of the galaxy is not a static pic of something 2.5 million years ago, it's a picture of 100,000 years of a galaxy. The shape of the galaxy is different as it appears, because when the light from the back meets the light from the front, how it looks in camera, the back edge has been rotating for 100,000 years, so like a giant temporal rolling shutter effect is going on. While many cultures have elements that we could call racism, institutional racism, as we know it in the Western world, was kinda sorta invented in the Reconquista in Spain and Portugal in the late 1400s. Or, to be more specific, white supremacy was invented then. The prototype for a lot of what we call Western civilization was the Roman Empire. But the Romans didn't have a doctrine of white supremacy. Roman citizenship status was complicated, but it didn't depend on your skin color, and having a slave or foreigner among your ancestors didn't exclude you from it. So where did official, formal, doctrinaire racism come from? In Reconquista Spain, they came up with a policy called limpieza de sangre, literally blood purity. You couldn't be a member of a guild, or get a government job, or marry into the nobility, or have any other position of honor, if you had any Moorish or Jewish ancestry. To do those things you had to be an old Christian, which really just meant that nobody could show that you had an ancestor of one of the enemy races. Yeah, that's the ancestral form of the one-drop rule. The idea was to discriminate among families that had been living there for centuries. Those that had intermarried with Muslims or Jews in Al-Andalus were excluded, while those that had remained pure were honored. It wasn't about excluding immigrants or foreigners, it was about declaring that fellow citizens who had enjoyed tolerance under the previous regime, for hundreds of years, would no longer be considered equals. Combine that with the African slave trade, and you get the genesis of most of what we call racism in the West today. The forms of racism that have been institutionalized in government or culture in the New World, and occasionally in other bits of Europe, basically descend from anti-Muslim and anti-Jewish bigotry in the 1400s in the Iberian Peninsula. To be clear, there were plenty of later innovations on the theme of racism. Much later, early anthropology made some contributions, which is why we have words like Caucasian meaning white, based on the imaginary idea that white people originated in the Caucasus. But the core ideas were established in the late 1400s. That, like me, pretty much every woman I know has been socialized/trained to hate, criticize and relentlessly try to change her body with the goal of being able to love herself enough to really live. That there is no finish line for this hatred, No set point at which we will be good enough as long as we're playing this stupid game. We can get plastic surgery, lose lots of weight, and still not be at home in our bodies. When my mom died 2 years ago, I thought long and hard about the messages we had both gotten about our bodies, and how it was clear for most of my life that she did not like the body she was in. You don't know until you watch someone die how hard your soul will try at the end to stay in the body you were given. Mom had lung cancer and she died right in front of me. It wasn't one of those pretty soft deaths you see on TV, it was fucking hard and traumatic with noise and fear, and it sucked. But in the middle of my grief, I came to the decision that I refuse to die in a body I hate. I'm almost 41, I have been overweight my whole life, I have feelings about my face and my hair and my skin and all of the usual stuff. But I practice love for this body every day, because my mother made it, and because acknowledging its beauty is the last gift I can give her. That fat, muscle and cartilage doesn't fossilize, so we have no idea what dinosaurs actually looked like. Ever seen the skull of a hippo? Doesn't look like a hippo. Ever seen a human's nose and ear bones? Exactly. Now apply that to dinosaurs. Also, some dinosaurs could have had long tongues like frogs, venomous fangs made of cartilage, etc. If dinosaurs had feathers, we'll never know what their plumage looked like. We have no idea what they actually sounded like. All we really have are wild guesses based on their bones and bullshit made up by Hollywood. We don't even know if they could be classified as reptile, bird, or anything. They could have been a category of species that we just don't have anymore that fits no definition. They could have been like feathered frogs for all we know. That whenever we look at the universe from a distance, we see only the past through light, and you have no clue what the present is like. Decoherence of quantum entanglement through mere observation. That a giant balls of tightly sealed air, fire, and particles are spinning about themselves while fizzing past large distances at mind-boggling speeds, seemingly randomly, but not. They are heavily governed by a set of laws that protects them from immediately imploding or collapsing or exploding through collision. That you are a miracle of life that's contained within certain complex socioeconomic systems, and you barely have the time or intention to think and expand the mind on the miracle you are, because your species has created a system which keeps the majority of the population in a survival mode, blocking any and all chances of you thinking beyond. That we kill each other and torture other life forms for fun, fashion, food, whatever, and justify in the name of God, who we invented in our likeness, insisting that your way is the only correct way, and if they disobey your way, then they are subject to afterlife hell. But how does that affect you? You don't know. However, you are saving them and the world by brainwashing them or control them through systemic violence, all in the name of God and religion that your ancestors invented. You don't realize that it was only a chance that you were born into the religion you claim as your own, and you could just as easily have been born into another religion were it under different circumstances. That a few with control run the majority of the population, and those few outright refuse to cooperate with the environment, leading to our inevitable demise.